Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Breathe Motivation. My name is Anthony Hester. I'm your host. My goal is to help you find purpose and passion in everything you do on a day-to-day basis, so that is why I am here every week. So glad to join you today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you guys sharing this with your friends, family, co-workers. I love hearing messages that, so-and-so showed me this podcast and it's really helped make a difference. So I love hearing that. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. So let's jump into today's topic. And the topic and definition for today is safety. So that's the condition of being protected from or unlikely to cause danger, risk, or injury. So safety is really important, right? Growing up, we all know that safety is one of the biggest things that people tell you all the time. When you leave your house, hey, have a great day, be safe, right? Or you go to work, hey, I hope everything's going well. I hope you stay safe and you get everything done with your job, right? So there's so many different things that, safety is very important. You guys all probably go through safety training, once or twice a year in your job. I know I do. In the corporate jobs that I've had, we're always doing safety training. We're always having to be aware of things around us. If I drive in a car, so that, I go through safety driving, courses and all of that stuff throughout the year. So I think it's important for us to really be safe, right? Now, there's also playing it too safe. And I don't know if any of you guys have really struggled with that, or, you might be playing it really safe right now, because so many of us and just in life, our brains are formulated for us to play life safely, right? Our brain wants us to be safe. It doesn't want us to get into danger. It doesn't want to put our bodies at risk for things that, feel really uncomfortable. When I went through, I have anxiety, and I've told you guys a little bit about this, and you haven't heard about it, but anxiety is really, I don't even know how to explain it sometimes. And when I talk about it, I'm like, man, this is kind of tough to explain to people because it's just a feeling. And when I had anxiety, I had this amount of fear for no reason. Like it was just like a wave of fear that would come over me. So I was always concerned about all these things that would never happen. And, I was so worried about, putting myself in danger. And, so anxiety kind of releases like this fight or flight risk, right? So, it feels like you're always kind of in danger. And that's how I can explain it. I don't know if that, just picture that in your mind. You're always you're just always fearful of things that could happen. What if what if you went down the street and, somebody kicked you or something? There's so many different things that go in your mind. And, I used to fear, what if my wife would travel out of town and be like, well, what if she gets in an accident? Or what if she, and then she's hours away, like I'm going to, what do? I got to drive. And then I was fearful of driving. I was so worried about going, driving because, well, what if I got in an accident? Or, what if I got sick and my wife wasn't here? Well, like, what do I do? So all these thoughts would go over my head, and that's how anxiety is. Your mind's constantly, sending you through this fight or flight process. This adrenaline is always running within you. It'd get really uncomfortable. I'd go through spells of like dizziness. I'd almost like not feel like myself, and it was just a weird kind of feeling. And it all came back down to, I had to kind of address my fears. Right. So as I came over this, this anxiety overcame me, it came down to, a lot of the things that are going on in my life. And it always stemmed back to fear of not really succeeding in life. Right. So a lot of us have this idea of what we want out of life. And if we aren't getting there, it's kind of weird. We actually do like the opposite. I know I do the opposite. If I'm not getting to where I need to be in life or feel like I need to be in life, you almost get kind of complacent. You kind of stay in the same place because you're always constantly thinking about, well, what if I do this? If I do this, then this might not work out. So I got to be safe. Our minds are mentally there. They challenge us. If you're looking to change your career, it can be very scary to change your career, right? You've been in the same position for years, and now you want to go and look for something else. You start to think of that, and then you start to become fearful. Like, what is this feeling, right? Why do I want to change jobs? Your brain starts telling you, why do you want to change jobs? You're comfortable here. It's a good thing for you to be safe, and it's good for you not to take risks, and all of these things could happen. And if you stay in this position, you're going to be okay. And we've got to overcome that. because that's what leads us to, being complacent and staying in our comfort zones. We've got to be able to get out of that zone and stop playing it safe. A lot of people, when you see them, we've talked about going into autopilot. People that are on autopilot, are people that are playing it safe. You're playing it safe because you think that all these bad things are going to happen. And you've got to be able to stop doubting yourself. A lot of the times when you almost underestimate yourself, you underestimate your skills that you have. And your mind's tricking you that, hey, you might not have the skills that you think you have. So you've almost got to override that thought process, and not almost override it. You've got to override that thought process. In the last year, I've had 5 different jobs with 5 different companies. And I never thought in my life that I would do that. But it came down to, hey, am I happy here? If I'm not, is there a better opportunity somewhere else? So instead of, risking being fearful of switching jobs and, what if this works or what if it doesn't work? And, going through that, like, kind of just thought process all the time, I just say, you know what, this looks like a better opportunity. I've got to go for it. And I was fearful, right? Everything, switching 5 jobs in a year is a little weird and a little crazy. And people will say, why are you doing that so much? But it always came down to, in your life, you got to be happy. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, you got to change it. And that's one of the biggest things that people fear is change. So change creates doubt. Change creates, this feeling of, you're losing control. I don't know. It's kind of a weird process, but there's some steps that you need to do in order to get there. First, you've got to be able to have the confidence within yourself to be able to change the things in your life. You've got to be able to take a step outside of your comfort zone and get to the spots that you want to go. If you want success, the only way to find success is to challenge yourself. You've got to challenge your brain and say, hey, great, I know that this can be fearful and this is going to maybe be some risks, but hey, here's some logic for you. I'm going to be okay because this job is going to pay me more money, or this job is going to give me a little bit more fulfillment, or give me more flexibility to be able to, spend more time with my family. So you almost have to tell yourself and tell your brain that, hey, this looks fearful, but these are the things that are better for me. So you've got to challenge your brain, you've got to challenge your mind, you've got to challenge your thoughts, because it will create doubt. It will create, this fear and this overwhelming, kind of just feeling within yourself that you're not going about what you need to. But your life is all about how you control your thoughts, right? You got to watch what you tell yourself, because if you're not telling, if you're telling yourself all these negative things, of course, why would you want to switch jobs, or why would you want to do anything different than what you're doing right now? People are miserable. There are people that are miserable every day doing the same thing over and over again and feeling like they can't escape. I know I was there, especially when I had this anxiety. I was in, this train of thought of, just whatever, I wasn't happy. And it caused this anxiety. And I was so fearful of all these things going on around me that I wasn't living life the way that I wanted to. So I had to let go. I was holding on to all these things. I was so fearful of death at the time. And I was so worried, I was 29, 28. I'm healthy. And, I was looking at like, man, I'm so afraid of like dying. What if I don't live up to my expectations or other people's expectations of me? Right. And that was the fear that I had. And that was what was really the main root of the anxiety. So there's a main root that holds you guys back and that holds you in your comfort zone. You've got to be able to challenge that mindset. Go into that mindset and say, hey, great, these are some things that are going on, but I know that they are going to be better for me. And you got to start looking at these things positively versus negative, because your mind's always going to tell you, hey, you're going out of, you're going out of your safety zone. You got to step back. You got to step back. And it's great that your brain does that, but there are things that it shouldn't hold you back from. And you've got to be able to take some risks, and you got to be able to, get to that point of not playing it safe, because then you're going to live a more fulfilled life. But you've got to be smart about it. You've got to challenge those thoughts. You got to be positive. And one of the things that I learned, anxiety is all about, for me, it was, relinquishing control. I know, like, when things would happen, like, the things that would trigger me is, if I didn't have control. So when I would go on an airplane, I was freaking out because I don't have control of the airplane. right? The captain's, flying the airplane. I don't have control. So, if we're going down, we're going down. Like, what can I do? I can't do anything. I don't have control. Or same thing in a car. If I was riding with somebody and I'm not driving the car and we get in an accident, what can I do? What can I have done to change it? Or what am I going to do? Right? These are little things that you shouldn't be worried about, but that was something that I was always fearful of. I don't know how to fly a plane. How am I going to save a plane if we're going down? Right? And I was so spent. My mind was so spent worrying about things that didn't matter or probably wouldn't happen. And it's the same thing when you're playing it safe. Your mind is always constantly telling you it's tiring. It's always telling you the negative things of the things that could and would happen. But a lot of the times we over exaggerate the things that could happen or couldn't happen, right? So if I change jobs, well, what if I don't make more money? Then I lose my house or I lose my car or, I'm stuck in this position, right? And I always used to think about stuff like that. But, now looking at it, 5 jobs, I was like, great. Hey, I got 5 pretty good jobs out of this. It wasn't like I was just taking a pay cut or whatever. I was maneuvering and trying to find the best thing for me, right? And that's what you've got to do. You've got to be able to have that positive outlook on life and be able to take one step out of your comfort zone every day. You've got to be able to be brave and take a step in the direction of what you want to. And you've got to be able to find the root cause for what is causing you to play safe and living the life that you don't want to, right? Because once you can get specific to that root cause and that issue, right? My issue of fear was, my fear of losing control, right? I wasn't in control, so, I wasn't in control of my emotions, right? The fear would just overcome me, so I wasn't in control of that. So it would trigger me into more fear, and I'd be it was just overwhelming. So I had to relinquish control and say, hey, you know what? I know I've got skills. I know I'm better. I know where my thought process is. I know I need to be positive. I'm going to be positive. I used to tell myself positive affirmations every day. Hey, I'm positive. I'm strong. I'm focused. I am not my anxiety, right? And the more and more that I focused on the fear, the more that fear would overcome me. So I had to let go of that thought process and say, hey, hey, fear, if you're going to come here, I'm just going to sit with you. And we're gonna enjoy ourselves together, right? I almost had to kind of turn it into a game of, hey, I'm scared, but we're gonna be scared together here, fear, right? And it sounds really weird that I'd have that conversation, but the minute I stopped focusing on the fear, it would dissipate, and I wouldn't have that feeling anymore. And it would go away, and then I would start to learn these kind of things of how can I relinquish control. And the more that I've relinquished control of these feelings and the overwhelmed feeling and the fear, things got better. So you've got to be able to relinquish control of your feelings and relinquish control of fear. Naturally, emotions are going to happen, and that's the big thing. You've got to be able to relinquish the control. There are great things that can happen in your life, and control the controllables, the things that you can control, do. And if you can't control it, then just let it go. That's where most fear comes from, are the things that you can't control. So are there things that you can't control as far as, I can I can control how much money I make because I make commission, right? So I just got to work a little bit harder. And then there's things that I can't control, right? I can't control other people. They're their own people. They have their own mindsets. I can talk to them and challenge their thoughts, and we can, have great conversations. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to control people. So if you try to control people, you're automatically going to lose, right? Because you can't change anybody. The only person you can change is yourself. So relinquish control of the things that you can't control. Control the controllables, and life will be that much better, right? You can control yourself taking that next step, or start to look for another career, or, ask, that person out that you've been wanting to ask out. What's the worst that can happen? What am I truly afraid of? And am I going to hurt myself if I take this risk? Of course you're not, right? If you're going to, it's just, you just got to be able to have that confidence within yourself. So let me leave you this quote. Pretty simple today. Fortune favors the bold. So be brave in what you do. Be comfortable doing what you do, and you will step outside your comfort zone, and you'll see a new world open up for you. But relinquish control, get specific, find the root cause of the reason why you're so fearful and that doubt that you have, and stop underestimating yourself. Go out there, stop playing it safe, and make good things happen for you. All right? So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate. Check out my website, breathemotivation.com. You can email me at anthonyhester@breathemotivation.com. And I look forward to speaking with you guys next week. So As always, remember to breathe motivation and exhale success. I'll see you next week. Thanks.